President Trump gave yet another unhinged performance at a campaign rally on Saturday, and his education secretary followed up the next day by giving a train wreck of an interview to 60 Minutes. For more on this, it's time for a closer look. With the Stormy Daniels story gaining traction every day and the Russia investigation intensifying, maybe Trump is under an unusual amount of stress. Because on Saturday, he flew to Pennsylvania to rally for the Republican candidate in a special congressional election. And even by his standards, Trump's antics were especially off the rails. Now, as for the candidate, Rick Saccone, who Trump was ostensibly there to support, he barely came up. Trump's like the friend you invite to your karaoke birthday party who shows up late, doesn't bring a gift, and then sings Stairway to Heaven 10 times in a row. And Trump was playing all the hits, reeling off vulgar insults of reporters and politicians by name. Like, for example, when he brought up the prospect of running against Oprah and implied that he knew something about her that the public does not.
Wouldn't we love to run against Oprah? I would love it. I would love it. That would be a painful experience for her. Oh, I'd love Oprah to win. I'd love to beat Oprah. I know her weakness. No, I know her weakness.
I know her weakness? He talks about Oprah the way Lex Luthor talks about Superman. And you're not special. We all know her weakness.
I love bread.
And listen, don't think you can stop her just because you look like the Pillsbury Doughboy. And that's it. That's Oprah's only weakness. This is a woman who spent 30 years getting celebrities to cry on television. She broke Lance Armstrong. If Trump ever does debate Oprah, there's a good chance it will end with him sobbing at the podium. You know who I wish they'd lock up? The part of me that's sad. But of course, Trump was not merely content to attack one black woman in his rant. He then went after California Congresswoman Maxine Waters, specifically by insulting her intelligence.
We have to defeat Nancy Pelosi. And Maxine Waters, a very low IQ individual.
I don't know. I bet she says IQ faster. IQ. And Trump knows. You guys, Trump knows high IQ individuals like his Secretary of Education, Betsy DeVos, seen here crushing it last night on 60 Minutes.
Have the public schools in Michigan gotten better?
I don't know. Overall, I can't say overall that they have all gotten better.
Your argument that if you take funds away, that the schools will get better is not working in Michigan, where you had a huge impact and influence over the direction of the school system here.
I hesitate to talk about all schools in general because schools are made up of individual students attending them.
Have you seen the really bad schools? Maybe try to figure out what they're doing? I have not intentionally visited schools that are underperforming. Maybe you should.
Maybe I should.
F minus. F minus. She's the highest ranking education official in the country, and she acts like a substitute teacher who is just realizing her U.S. history isn't up to speed. Can anyone tell me what this is a picture of? Yeah, it's George Washington crossing the Delaware. Well, no, because Delaware is a state. So you wouldn't need a boat to cross it. Yeah, it's also a river. I don't know. Yeah, it is. Maybe you should look it up. Yeah. Maybe I should. Now, Trump always insults and degrades people at these rallies, but his performance on Saturday was especially manic and vulgar. For example, Trump started ranting about his decision to meet with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un, and when referencing an interview he gave years ago on Meet the Press, said this about host Chuck Todd.
It's 1999. I'm on Meet the Press, a show now headed by Sleepy Eyes Chuck Todd. He's a sleeping son of a bitch, I'll tell you.
You're calling Chuck Todd a son of a bitch? Seriously, you know someone's not a son of a bitch when they still come off as approachable despite having the exact same facial hair as evil Spock. Trump is, of course, so obsessed with earning the praise and validation of the media that at one point during his rant on North Korea, he literally just started rambling nonsensically about President Obama, claiming Obama would not have been able to arrange a meeting with Kim Jong-un.
They're saying, not that big a deal. Anybody could have done it. Obama could have done it. Obama had a chance. No. They're saying, Obama.
Just mumbling Obama's name like Obama was the name of his childhood sled. His presidential diaries are going to look like the manuscript from The Shining. Of course, one major difference between Obama and Trump is that for Trump, the presidency isn't actually a job, it's just a performance. And on Saturday, he defended his performance by playing make-believe on stage and acting out what it would be like if he were less unhinged and more subdued as president.
You know how easy, remember I used to tell how easy it is to be presidential? But you'd all be out of here right now. You'd be so bored. Because I could stand out, right? I'm very presidential. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here tonight. And then you go, God bless you, and God bless the United States of America. Thank you very much.
I have to say, he might be the only white comedian who does a white guy voice. He's pretty funny sometimes. But Trump's ranting about North Korea and being presidential tells us a lot about his shock announcement last week that he had agreed to a summit meeting with Kim Jong-un. Now, it's undeniably better to be on a path toward peace than a ramp up to war. And if Trump somehow manages to fall ass backwards into a peaceful resolution with North Korea, then that is absolutely a good thing. And if that happens, I will be the first to admit, okay, he wasn't Darth Vader, he was Mr. Bean. But for Trump, this is, as usual, mostly about the show, not about the policy, because for months, he has repeatedly insisted that diplomacy was not the answer. And even as late as last week, he was incredibly vague about whether he favored negotiation or military action.
President Trump tweeted, and I quote, "The U.S. has been talking to North Korea and paying them extortion money for 25 years. Talking is not the answer."
I told Rex Tillerson, our wonderful Secretary of State, that he is wasting his time trying to negotiate with little rocket men.
We sent out through social media a statement, willing to go either way. Hopefully, it's going to be the proper way. The proper way is the way that everybody knows and everybody wants.
Wow, you are so clear and well-spoken. Who was your teacher, Betsy DeVos? So, Trump kept batting down his own Secretary of State's attempts to secure a peaceful resolution, and even when asked point blank what he would do was incredibly vague because, of course, he had no idea what he would do. It was only after careful diplomacy that South Korea was able to make this breakthrough. Trump, caring only about the spectacle, accepted on the spot, while congressional leaders and top officials at the Pentagon and the State Department learned what was happening from news reports. So the Pentagon and State Department have to watch the news to find out what the president is doing. I guess it's not surprising, since the president also watches the news to find out what the president's doing. In fact, even the way Trump notified the press about the news was more about theater than substance. After the South Koreans relayed the invitation, Trump walked over to the White House briefing room and teased reporters with a vague announcement.
Within the last few moments, President Trump stuck his head into the White House briefing room and said that there would be a major announcement coming this evening. And I said, Mr. President, what is the announcement going to be on? And he said, North Korea.
We're showing our viewers a picture when he simply walked into the briefing room over there, the press briefing room.
Okay, first of all, you can't just pop in, say you've got big news on North Korea, and leave. That's like your doctor peeking into your exam room and saying, I just got your test results back, and they are crazy. Seriously, though, look at him. He looks like he's popping his head into the break room to see if there's any pizza left. You guys, big news on North Korea? Yeah. You guys eat all the pizza? But Trump made his priorities clear when he spoke to reporters Thursday. He didn't comment on the substance of the announcement or how it would work. His focus was mainly about how the press would report on it.
He was almost giddy about this, ecstatic about this news. He said that this would be a big development. I asked if it was about negotiations. He says it's almost beyond that. And then he said, I hope you give me credit.
That's all he cares about. He just wants credit unless things go wrong, then he wants to avoid blame. If he meets with Kim Jong-un and it's a disaster, you know who will blame it on.
Obama. Obama. Obama.
So the president is ranting nonsensically at rallies, and his education secretary is giving incomprehensible answers about education, all while the White House tries to resolve a tense situation with North Korea. If Trump manages to stumble his way into a diplomatic breakthrough, that would undoubtedly be a great thing. But if that happens, he will have done it despite being a very
low IQ individual.
This has been a closer look.